G. Edward Griffin is our guest. Thank you so much for joining us, and he's a big part of Fall of the Republic. We're going to take some phone calls now in the 10 minutes or so we have left with him. Jim, Ken, Jason, Kevin, Mark. We'll get to your calls at least. But G. Edward Griffin, tell us about some of the other speaking engagements you have coming up around the country and where people can find out more.
Well, the big emphasis right now is the crash course on money that I mentioned before. And my next one is scheduled on November 21st in New York. And then after that, December 5 in Seattle. And then December 12 in Austin. And we'll have one in Toronto and one in Chicago after that, but they're not scheduled yet. And so if anybody's interested in hearing my views for a whole day on where we're headed and what to do about it, I urge you to come to our Reality Zone site and check out the seminar page. That's realityzone.com. You go to the landing page and you'll see my picture there, and that's the doorway into the seminar information. So that's taken a lot of my time, Alex, and I'm happy to report that the two seminars we've had so far, one in Los Angeles and one in Atlanta last weekend, are highly successful. And people have told me that they had their expectations completely fulfilled, which makes me feel good about it.
Oh, you're a very powerful lecturer. It's even more powerful than on the radio because you can really flow. I want to go to some calls here in the last segment we have with you, but to put a positive light on this, because I truly do believe that some positive things are happening, G. Edward Griffin, we are seeing an exponential awakening, and the globalists denying they were building this in the past, it's really handicapping them now that they're having to admit it. And I know they're not invincible, and if people will take action at the local, county, city, congressional level and really get involved, we can stop them. And our message of liberty and our message against collectivism is really spreading. And the globalists in a lot of their own publications, as I know you're aware, are really starting to complain and say that we better hurry up and finish this because the opposition is really starting to mount.
Yeah, they're scared to death of the size of the opposition. They've always known there would be a lot of it, but I think the size of it is surprising to them. And, of course, the Internet and talk radio are two of the main channels by which this movement is growing, and they're really focusing hard on those two areas. They would like to close you down, and they'd like to close down the Internet as soon as possible. So our little window of opportunity is not so big, but it's still open. And I agree with you. We can still do it, but we better get busy.
You know, that's an amazing admission. Jay Rockefeller in the Senate committee saying we would have been better off without the Internet, having Obama come out and say the NSA is taking over the web. We may have to shut it off to save it during emergencies. They're really setting the stage to control the Internet and shut it down and tax it and regulate it. Things are moving very quickly, and they wouldn't be getting ready to shut it off and starting to broach the subject if it wasn't hurting them. Jim in Illinois, you're on the air with G. Edward Griffin. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for everything you do. I just had a couple comments kind of expanding on what you're talking about. Just more like I think there might be a couple things that could at least slow them down a little. And, if we could maybe audit the Fed, get that moving, if we could get any kind of 9/11 truth going. And, if there was any possible way to get our soldiers back home, I think any one of those would slow them down big time. But then one other thing, if you guys could kind of expand on, you've been fighting the system so long that, at the rate it's growing, do you think by, the next generation we'll just overwhelm them with how many people understand liberty and what really comes with that?
I like the concept of the next generation. I think that by the next generation, and certainly the one after that, victory will be ours. But I don't think it'll be because of just overwhelming them with numbers. I think it'll be because that out of those who do understand the issues, that a small number of those people, 3% or less, will move and take control of the system. They will recapture control of the power centers of society and lead the rest of the people. I don't think it's going to be just the sheer force of numbers, although that is necessary in order to provide the moral support.
Sure. I mean, G. Edward, the biggest issue is exposure. If we, person by person, expose the global architecture so people know what they're seeing, understand what they're dealing with, this thing will implode. Thank you, Jim. Ken in New York, you're on the air with G. Edward Griffin. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. I just have some questions about the H.R. 1207. I'm just wondering why this bill, I mean, it has 311 co-sponsors. Why haven't we heard about anything that's about in the mainstream media? I mean, Fox News has...
Because the mainstream media is owned by the same banks that don't want to be audited. Ron Paul has over 309 sponsors. The Senate gutted the bill, but we've gone from no sponsors to 300. Now people are beginning to realize the real government is the Federal Reserve, so the beginning of the end has begun. We've made more strides the last 3 or 4 years against the private Federal Reserve than we made in the last 50, so the worm is turning. G. Edward Griffin.
Yeah, I agree with that. And however, we must be realistic that a lot of those co-sponsors for that bill are doing some grandstanding. They know that their constituents want them to look good. If you ask a lot of those guys, would they be in favor of abolishing the Fed? They'd say, hell no, man, I wouldn't do anything like that.
Gee, Edward, but I want to add the caveat here, and I understand what you're saying. Why audit it, just abolish it? Ron Paul's being shrewd here. If they can audit, it will so damage the Fed and expose their activities and their insider manipulations that will be the beginning of the end. And so Ron Paul's using an incremental approach here. I understand a lot of it is grandstanding, but it still overall is very positive to point out it's never been audited.
Oh, I agree with that, and I do endorse this movement as for that reason. And also, it's a means of causing people to think about the Fed. They never thought about it before.
Exactly.
And now they're not only thinking about it, but in a negative light. So it's really a good move. But anyway, we must be realistic that a lot of the support is not as deep as Ron's support.
Thank you, Ken. Jason in Mass, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Griffin.
Hello.
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 Sorry.
Yeah, you're on air.
Oh, hey, great show, Alex. I've been listening for about a year. I've been sending out hundreds of DVDs. I love the new movie. Mr. Griffin, your books are excellent. And I wanted you to know that you've inspired me to do a comic book about the Fed. And I'd love to share that with you somehow, or maybe even get some feedback on it from you someday. That'd be amazing.
I'd love to see a comic book on the Fed. I don't think it'd be funny, but it would be probably effective.
I'm trying to put some humor in it, actually, because it's too dreadful. Alex, I just had a comment. Maybe Mr. Griffin, you could comment on this. Excuse me. I get angry when I hear all these dirt talkers on bothering you and getting you upset. And I've been wondering for a long time why you even acknowledge some of them when, as you say, your fruits speak for you. And being as a gentleman, you know, why you need to respond to some of them when, I don't think a gentleman really needs to.
Well, I mean, we're talking about this right now. I appreciate your call. Look, there's going to be COINTELPRO that's going to attack G. Edward Griffin, myself, everybody else. It doesn't matter. The world government's here. There's no more denial. What are we going to do about it? Do you have any comments on this, G. Edward?
Well, yeah, I think his issue was, why do I waste time? I presume he's talking about our newsletter, Unfiltered News. I get some people that come in and they want to tear my arguments apart, and I often do respond. And the reason I do that is not because I expect to convince these people, but, they do raise issues that I think are in the minds of others that I feel that if I don't answer them, I'm not doing my job. And I try to answer them as best I can without becoming antagonistic or angry, because I'm really writing for other people to read and not the person who's written in that dirt talk, as he calls it.
Because we know that they just throw out those lies, hoping ignorant people then think we're lying. I mean, here's an example. I noticed a campaign on the web in the last 2 weeks when I made a big deal out of Ban Ki-moon. He is the Secretary General of the UN. The UN is real. The New York Times is real. The title was, "We Can Do It." And I noticed a disinfo campaign on my comment pages and on YouTube, and I wasn't even looking for this, under different names with the same cut and paste, saying, "I went and looked at that. Ban Ki-moon didn't write that. It's a lie. He never said global government." And they're not targeting thinkers, or they're not targeting people that already know the truth. They just want the average person to read that and think I'm lying, because that's what a lot of propaganda is, just down and dirty, meant to get people off track.